say this, that you control Congress and you control the White House. So of course it's the Republican Party's fault.
Who wrote the sunset? Who wrote the sunset?
Let me finish my point, please. Let me finish my point, please. I want to go back to what Marjorie Taylor Greene said.
Political analyst Emma Vigeland from the Majority Report recently appeared on CNN's Abby Phillips show for a panel discussion that's generating significant attention. Joining her were several commentators, including conservative strategist Scott Jennings. The panel focused on recent tensions within Republican leadership, particularly involving Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene and other figures in what some are calling intra-party disputes as new polling data emerges. We'll be examining key moments from this CNN segment and breaking down the arguments presented by each panelist. If you're interested in political analysis, I'd love to hear your perspective in the comments below. Let me know where you're watching from. And if you find this content valuable, please consider subscribing. We're approaching 1,000 subscribers, and your support helps us continue bringing you these political breakdowns. Let's dive into the footage.
Tonight, anger among House Republicans is erupting outside the family as Congresswoman Nancy Mace becomes the latest lawmaker to publicly slam the party's leadership. She's calling them ineffective and warning that without changes, the GOP could end up losing its majority. The hard truth Republicans don't want to hear, Mace wrote in the op-ed, is what she's talking about now. She says Nancy Pelosi was more effective of a speaker than any House Republican in this century. I agree with her on essentially nothing, Mace says, but she understood something that we don't. No majority is permanent. Pelosi was ruthless. She got things done. Now, so far, more than 24 House Republicans have already announced their retirement at the end of the term. But when asked about the growing exodus in the House, President Trump went on the defense.
There's at least 20 House Republicans who have either said they're going to retire or not run again. Do you have any
Democrats
concerns
also.
about the
And Democrats.
Right.
Also.
Do you have any?
Well, why don't you mention them? How many Democrats are going to retire? How many Democrats?
Well, that's what I was going to ask you.
But why don't you tell me the number of Democrats too? You tell me about.
Are you concerned about the narrow margins? And
no, I'm not concerned. I think we're going to do well.
Yikes. I have the answer for him. The number of Democrats is 18. The number of Republicans is 23. So there's something happening. I mean, some of it is just the natural order of things. We're going into a midterm that is likely to be very bad for Republicans. But this criticism from Nancy Mace, from Marjorie Taylor Greene, directed, at Speaker Johnson, but really directed at the fact that the House has become a doormat to this administration. That's part of the problem.
Yeah, I mean, I think the fact that you are hearing so much from inside the House, I mean, the fact that Nancy Mace is writing a New York Times editorial where she's critical of how the House is operating, I mean, it's relatively unprecedented to see that. Of course, there's criticisms in parties all the time, but I'm really surprised. Nancy Pelosi did have a 4-seat margin. Johnson has a 3-seat margin at this point. It's not that different. And yet the level of criticism and chaos and the fact that he puts bills up, takes them down, cannot get consensus, I think it's relatively surprising.
Yeah. And you served in Congress. Do you think that she's right, first of all? I mean, do you think that Speaker Johnson's doing a bad job?
Oh, he's got a tough task. That's a thin margin, and you have some Republicans who are, all over the map in terms of ideology. So it's a tough job for anybody. But it's doubly difficult when you have a president that's driving the agenda. And right now, that's an unpopular agenda. Prices are still high. This adventurism with, things like that are tough to defend. And then you have tariffs. And that's something that Congress, Republicans know that they should be in charge of, and they're not. And so I think they're feeling like they're out of control going into what are always difficult midterms. Whenever, a president is elected, his party tends to do worse. So it's a tough situation, and it's made worse by the situation they're in with the president.
Marjorie Taylor Greene has also said historically that this is also about women. She says there's a lot of weak Republican men, and they're more afraid of strong Republican women. So they always try to marginalize the strong Republican women that actually want to do something and actually want to achieve. Jealousy may be part of the dynamic, she added. They're always intimidated by stronger Republican women because we mean it and we will do it, and we will make them look bad. Elise Stefanik, Anna Paulina Luna, Kat Mack, Marjorie Taylor Greene. A lot of women are speaking out, and they're saying that they're not being listened to, that they're being used as sort of trophies and not actually
Tokens.
Tokens. That's a pretty harsh criticism.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the president himself has a really strong track record of promoting Republican women. I mean, we've got White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles sitting at the top of one of the most functional White Houses we've had in modern history. That's a great thing. In the House, I guess they're willing to, or they're happy to have their own opinions, but I personally believe Mike Johnson, with thin margins, has done a pretty darn good job. And we're not as authoritarian as Democrats. We don't force everybody to have the same opinion all the time. And the fact is, we've got some old school Republicans, some MAGA Republicans, some libertarians, and it's a broad coalition and it's hard to manage. But when he's needed to get a vote, he's mostly got it, particularly on the president's domestic agenda, which most Republicans are happy with.
Let me just play one more thing from Marjorie Taylor.
The moment deserved a response. When the camera cut away after Scott Jennings' comment, Emma Vigeland's expression spoke volumes, a reaction many viewers likely shared while watching this exchange. What stood out was the dynamic during this CNN panel discussion. When host Abby Phillip presented quotes from Marjorie Taylor Greene about Trump and Republican women, Jennings responded with a particular facial expression, one that's become recognizable in certain political commentary circles. This type of nonverbal response has become a notable pattern in modern political discourse. The puzzled look deployed when confronted with information that challenges a preferred narrative. Whether intentional or instinctive, it's a rhetorical device that viewers across the political spectrum have learned to recognize. The exchange highlights a broader question about political panel discussions. Do these formats genuinely foster dialogue, or do they simply provide platforms for practiced responses? The lack of immediate rebuttal in this instance left that question hanging.
I was really upset about on 60 Minutes, but here's what she had to say about what's going on behind the scenes.
Behind the scenes, do they talk differently?
Yes.
How?
Oh, it would shock people.
Well, let's shock people.
Okay. I watched many of my colleagues go from making fun of him, making fun of how he talks, making fun of me constantly for supporting him, to when he won the primary in 2024, they all started, excuse my language, Leslie, kissing his ass and decided to put on a MAGA hat for the first time.
Making fun of Trump behind the scenes.
I think this is like as my colleague said, she is allowed to have, and all these members are allowed to have their opinion or how they feel about the president or what have you. But I will echo, this speaker has absolutely passed transformational legislation that has brought relief. The One Big Beautiful Bill has brought amazing relief to American families across the country, and he's done so within margins. And I would say, and we're comparing it to Speaker Pelosi, who gave us the Unaffordable Non-Care Act out of her speakership. This speaker has absolutely passed transformational legislation and is doing absolutely an amazing job on behalf of the American people. So these folks are entitled to their opinion, but the results that are coming out of this House tell a totally different story. I would say, yes, the legislation is transformational and taking millions and millions of people off of their health care. That is exactly what's going to happen. But the ACA was supposed to fix that. The ACA
passed before the One Big Beautiful Bill Act.
Wasn't the ACA supposed to be the magic pill that fixed everything?
That's not my contention.
I'm a believer in Medicare for all.
There's 45 million people with health care because of the ACA.
ACA expanded coverage that did not solve everything. We need to have a single payer system that can change that, and that's something that I advocate for on my show all the time. So I'm not going to say that the ACA is a panacea, but the Republicans right now are not extending the 2021 ACA subsidies, meaning that people's premiums are going to maybe skyrocket because of the Republican Party right now. So, yeah, it's transformational legislation. That's the Republican Party's fault. Yes, it is. Yeah, you control Congress and you control the White House. So, of course, it's the Republican Party's fault.
Who wrote the sunset? Who wrote the sunset?
Let me finish my point, please. Let me finish my point, please. I want to go back to what Marjorie Taylor Greene said. I want to go back to what Marjorie Taylor Greene said about Mike Johnson and about this White House, because I do think that there's a buy-in from certain Republican women that if you toe the line, we'll allow you to be a professional woman. We'll allow you to speak your mind, but only in this very narrow context, and then we'll marginalize you on the scenes, along the lines. They have played ball, but when it came to the Epstein issue, they saw women who were victims. They saw them crying out, saying, can you please release this information? And they saw this White House whipping votes to make sure that that information would not get out there. They not seating Representative Grijalva for weeks and weeks so that she wouldn't be that 218th vote on the discharge petition. So I think that these Republican women are hypocrites, that they're, and in many ways, and they bought into a far-right agenda that is harming the American public, but we should also listen to them when they say this administration does not respect women in their actions, in the way that they treat the Republican women in their caucus, and then, of course, in the victims of Jeffrey Epstein and the cover-up that they've engaged in.
All right, next for us, Jasmine Crockett announced.
During a recent CNN panel hosted by Abby Phillip, commentator Emma Vigeland engaged in a spirited healthcare policy debate with Republican strategist Scott Jennings and Trump advisor Tim Parrish. The discussion centered on claims that the current administration's policies represent transformational change benefiting Americans. However, as Vigeland pointed out, the data suggests these benefits haven't reached most working-class families. While certain tax policies may have advantaged high-income earners, the impact on middle and lower-income Americans remains questionable. An interesting moment arose when panelists criticized the Affordable Care Act, apparently unaware that Vigeland has long advocated for Medicare for all, a single-payer healthcare system. This highlights a common misconception. Not all progressive commentators align with mainstream Democratic positions. Many progressive voices support healthcare models similar to those in other developed nations, which goes beyond the current ACA framework. The exchange also illustrated a familiar pattern in political debate, the tendency to deflect criticism by pivoting to the opposing party rather than defending policies on their merits. With current approval ratings hovering in the low to mid-30s, there's clearly a disconnect between political messaging and public reception. Vigeland demonstrated strong command of policy details during her limited speaking time. It would be valuable to see extended discussions where panelists can fully develop their arguments without interruption. What's your take on this exchange? Share your thoughts in the comments below and subscribe for more political analysis.